So, yeah, the last and the first go together, don't they? Yeah. You know, we think about that sometimes, like dying is an end, but dying is just a transition. You know, it's an end and it's a beginning. Yeah. What makes it scary is that we grasp onto our identity, we grasp onto our possessions, onto our friends and relatives, onto our body, and, you know, all of this is me, all of this is mine, and I don't want it to change. And yet the reality is change. So that's why understanding dependent arising is important, because it helps us understand that things are transient and they don't stay the same in our lives. And dependent arising also helps us to see that there's no actual self there to grab onto. Okay? So some people may not like that idea. When you cling strongly to your identities, you don't like that idea. But when you really are able to look at your own experience and see that clinging to identities is what keeps us cycling in samsara, then you begin to see, oh, there's some value here in releasing identities, in seeing, yes, things exist, but they don't exist in the way that I think they do. They exist dependently, but there's nothing there that I can identify as me. When you search, there's nothing you can identify as me. What you're saying, but I'm sitting here, and I have a passport and a driver's license and a birth certificate. I can prove that I exist and I am here, you know, and don't mix me up with anybody else. Yeah, even though there may be 5,000 of us, if you Google my name, I am still me. Okay. So we hang on to that so much, but what are you going to identify as me? And when you look, you know, let's spend some time with the body, because this is something that we hold very strongly to. If you know, and so much of our identities, as we discovered the other day, are based on the body, you know, and we defend those identities, and they do have some functional existence in a certain environment. Yeah. So I'm just going to backtrack for a minute about that, because I was thinking a little bit about, you know, we were talking about race and ethnicity and that kind of stuff. And I was thinking that way of talking about it, that way of looking at it, is very unique to the U.S. and to certain parts of the U.S. Yeah, it's a West Coast, Northeast phenomena. You know, don't go to Nebraska and, you know, expect them to think like this. Okay? And, you know, same with gender things in different cultures. The whole idea of gender is completely different. Yeah? And the whole idea even of democracy being the best form of government, that isn't prevalent throughout the world. I remember being, you know, that was one thing I really had to get used to, being in the, when I first went to Asia, well, no, the second time I went to Asia, but the first in the monastery, was that, in the monastery, they didn't think democracy was the best way to run the monastery. Yeah. And I'm going, what? Democracy is the best. And they're, and I'm looking at how they do things. No, they don't think that. And so it really made me stop and look at my cultural assumptions that I thought were the way. So democracy has some good qualities, but we're also on the what number day of a government shutdown with no relief in sight, and this is a function of democracy. Does that work? So I'm not advocating for autocracy, certainly by no means. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that I had to really by living in other countries, readjust my way of thinking that, there's one way of government that is the best for everybody and everybody should do it that way. Or there's one way of, that societies should function and everybody should do it that way. Because that just isn't the case. Yeah. So things function within an environment. Yeah. Not just independently on their own. And it's the same with us. We have our identities dependent on the environment that we live in and what kind of sentient being we are. We happen to be born in the human realm this lifetime, this particular karmic bubble. That's all we are, is a karmic bubble. Yeah. And so because of that, then we notice different things, we think different things, we construct different things. But this isn't the same for all sentient beings. The social structures and things like that. I was thinking about our cats. Okay, our cats are great teachers around here. Okay, so Upeka is pretty dark. Yeah. Maitri and Mudita are gray. Yeah. And Karuna is mostly white, but not totally. Do they rank themselves according to the color of their fur? Yeah. I don't think that the color of the fur is really important to the other kitties. I don't know if you've noticed our turkeys, Most of the turkeys are brown-black, and there's one white turkey. And the one white turkey fits in with the rest of the turkeys okay. Nobody's pecking on that one turkey because they look different than the others. So this is what I mean when I say that things exist in an environment, in a context. Outside of that context, nobody cares. Okay? If you look at our whole economy, and people are so freaked out. The stock market's up and down. It's like, the Matterhorn ride at Disneyland. And where did the economy come from? I mean, everybody latches on to it. Where did the economy come from? We made it up. We made it up. We made up a banking system. We made up a stock market. We made up bonds. We made up interest rates. We made up savings accounts and checking accounts. The whole thing is a human fabrication. And we fabricated it, and now we suffer within it. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, we fabricate the whole thing, and then because we're taking it as so real, then we suffer. Okay? Manners. Similarly, what's considered polite manners in one culture is rude in another culture. Yeah. When young husbandsmen, the British, whatever rank he was, led his men into Lhasa in the early 1900s, the Tibetans were standing around the Lingkhor, one of the big places where you circumambulate. And as the troops were marching in, the Tibetans were clapping. And the British thought, they're welcoming us. Yeah, because clapping in Britain is a sign of approval and welcome, and we're glad you're here. In Tibet, clapping is to scare away the demons. They were not welcoming the British with open arms. They were trying to scare away the demons. Yeah. In Western culture, it's very rude to stick out your tongue. In Tibetan culture, that's how you really show respect to somebody, as you bend over and you stick out your tongue. Lasso. I can't do it perfectly. I'm not Tibetan. but it's a sign of respect to somebody. And it means by showing your tongue that you don't have any kind of black magic mantra that you're using. Okay? In the West, we shake hands with our right hand. It's to show that you don't have a gun in your hand. That's the meaning of it. It's from the Wild West, which exists today. It's an old tradition that exists today. It shows you don't have a gun in your hand. You reach out your empty hand to shake it. Okay? So these things exist within cultures, and what we consider polite and rude is not inherently existent. It depends on the culture that you're in. Okay? So that's looking at some ways in which we concretize things and then get upset with each other. Yeah. In Tibetan culture, it is very rude to blow your nose, to take a tissue and blow your nose like this. Yeah. You have to cover your head like this and then blow your nose. Okay, I had hay fever. I would spend a great deal of time in my Dharma classes. Now, in America, in the West, is it polite in a class or in front of people to go like this? You know? In our culture, no way. I mean, they'll make a law against it. Yeah, I mean, if they won't let Islamic women wear, their scarves, they're certainly not going to let Tibetans blow their nose under their robes. Okay? And yet, not doing that in Tibet Tibetan culture is considered very rude. Okay? So what I'm trying to get you to see is how we construct things. And then, based on what we construct, we judge other people, assuming that they have the same social constructs that we do. And that assumption, if you go back to Thursday night, is not a correct assumption. Okay? You have to backstep it. It's a wrong view. It's not even a kind of doubt. It's definitely a wrong view. Okay? But by not seeing this kind of thing, we get into so much trouble. Yeah. We were talking about cultural appropriation one day at the Abbey, and how I think it was near Halloween, wasn't it? And how people, if you dressed up as, a Mexican, what was that? The I can't remember, the name slipping in my mind. Mariachi, thank you. That go around and serenade people. That is cultural appropriation. You're not supposed to do that. And then Venerable Nima was sharing that when she was younger, she's from Colombia, that when people wanted to learn about Hispanic things, she felt really good. And she felt that it was a coming together and, anything but cultural appropriation. And so you can see just within one country how things have changed. And also, it's only in some parts of the country. Yeah, in other parts of the country and with other people, I would assume now if people asked how to cook Spanish, Latina food, you would be very happy. You wouldn't consider it cultural appropriation, and you just learned how to cook Chinese food. So I don't think you'd consider it cultural appropriation. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So how different people see things in different ways. And if we just have this assumption that there's one way because our particular niche thinks about things in that way, therefore everybody thinks in that way, then we're not going to get along with other groups very well, And this is, I think, one of the lessons from that book, Strangers in Their Own Land. Okay, so that's, I'm talking about kind of dependent arising and how things are empty of having their own inherent meaning on one level. If we go back at a deeper level, okay, and question not just am I inherently this race or that race, this nationality or that nationality. That's on a more superficial level. Let's look. Is there a concrete I to start with? Yeah, because we're already, when we're saying I'm this religion, I'm that cultural group, I'm this age, I'm this, ability level, I'm this artistic, all these things, we're already doing that on the assumption that there is a real, solid self, the essence of me-ness. Okay, we're doing all that on that basis, and we don't even question that basis. And in fact, when somebody brings it up, we get a little bit nervous. What do you mean there's no soul? There's no essence of me? Yeah. When I die, there's got to be something that I am. And we think if there's not something that is permanently me, then the only other alternative is total non-existence. And that freaks us out. What Buddhism is saying is it's not either of those extremes. Okay? It's not the extreme of there's a real me who's always me, who's the essence of me-ness, that never changes, that's always here. There's not that kind of self that we need to protect. Yeah. And there's also, so that's one wrong view, holding that there's that kind of self. The other wrong view is saying, well, if there's not that kind of self, then I don't exist at all. And everything is, totally non-existent. Okay? Those are two extremes. You'll find them, the technical terms are the extreme of absolutism and the extreme of nihilism. Yeah? But we flip-flop, We hold on to this one, but when we negate this one, then we think, oh, well, then there's nobody. Okay? But then we say, but there has to be somebody. I'm sitting here in this room. So then we go back to this side and say, okay, then there's a real me. Okay? So in the Vajrasattva practice, we're doing the whole practice within the framework of trying to see that Vajrasattva, me, my negativities, the four opponent powers, everything we're doing, the mantra, the whole thing, that all of that exists dependently, but none of it has any inherent, findable, isolatable, self-enclosed identity that makes it what it is. Okay? So, when we have this view of ourself, sometimes you're doing Vajrasattva, and you feel, oh, I've done so much negativity, I'm just hopeless. I just have stockpiled negativity this life. I've made a mess of so many lives and my life, and the whole thing is hopeless. And then they tell me there's previous lives, and I've botched it up just as much in previous lives. And, I'm just, this is where you get, what is it in Catholicism? Original sin. I'm original, there's original sin. I am inherently flawed. I can't do anything to change that situation. Yeah. Somebody else, I don't know how it's supposed to happen, it makes it all better again. But I, myself, inherently flawed, can't change it, can't do anything. Okay? Even I repent and beat my breast, that can't cure the whole thing. Okay? So that is grasping onto inherent existence. That's grasping onto a real, concrete me with real, concrete characteristics, such as being 102% flawed. Not just 100%, 102%. Make sure nothing ever changes. Yeah. And then we go through life with that vision of ourselves. And that vision of ourselves limits our abilities. Yeah. Because when we have that view of ourselves, then we don't try. Because we're already defeated before we give ourselves a chance. We give up on ourselves, basically, by holding on to that kind of belief. That there's a real me who's evil, who's bad, who's, and there, and it can't change, and the whole thing's hopeless. Okay? So then let's go to the bar with all the people who aren't taking the fifth precept. And we'll celebrate all the other people who are taking all 5 precepts. This grasping at a real me. This is the root of our confusion and the root of our suffering. Why do we keep taking one rebirth after another in samsara? Again and again and again and again. Like being on a merry-go-round that goes up and down and you can't get off. What's the root of that? It's that grasping at there being a real, solid, self-enclosed, individual, independent me, or I, or self. Okay? And once we have that idea, then, of course, we have to protect that self. Yeah? Because if there's me here and the rest of the world out there, then that rest of the world can either give me pleasure or it can give me pain. So some people are really interested in the pleasure part, and let's get the pleasure, let's get the pleasure. You have greed, attachment, I've got to get this and this and this and this, leading to negativities, karma, negative karma, leading to rebirth. Other people, it's like, yeah, I want all of this, but really I have to defend myself because those people out there, they can really hurt me. And so we build up walls and we defend them with anger, animosity, hostility. Okay? And most of us are a combination of those two. Okay? We look at other people and we compare ourselves to them. Comparison is deadly. Our whole society is founded on comparison and competition. Isn't it? But it's deadly. Because every time I compare myself with somebody else, I don't cut the grade. So then I get jealous of them because they're better than me. Or I compare myself to them and I'm better. And then I lord it over other people and oppress them. Okay? And then, the I, then we get into all these other machinations of, I don't feel like doing it. You know that? I don't feel like doing it. I want to lie around today. I want to do something fun today. And anyway, it all doesn't matter. Nobody cares. I can't do anything. And that's laziness from a Buddhist sense. Okay? So you can see that all these problems in the world, they're all traced back to the root of reifying ourselves and reifying everything and everyone else around us. Yeah? So again, our mind creates these inherently existent people, inherently existent pleasure and pain, and then we fight against what our own mind has created. Okay? If this isn't a cause for compassion, I don't know what is. Okay? Here we all are. We want to be happy. We don't want to suffer. But based on this fundamental ignorance, what do? Is we create the causes for suffering again and again and again. Because we chase after what we want and we'll do anything to get it. We can't stand these things and we've got to destroy it. And then there we go. The story of lifetime after lifetime after lifetime in samsara. Okay? So this is why questioning that fundamental identity is so important, because that's the key to liberating us. Okay? That's the key. So we have to start questioning the more superficial levels of how we concretize things. But always remember to go back to that fundamental level too, and question that, and investigate that. Yeah, who am I? Yeah. So another one of my mother's good things, her saying, "Young lady, just who do you think you are?" Yeah, it was a good question. She started asking me since I was a little kid. I didn't take it the Dharma way. I should have. I realize now, she was actually teaching me emptiness, even though she didn't even believe it. But it's true, Who do you think you are? Who do I think I am? Yeah. And so the first thing that we think we are is our body. Yeah, because we're so entranced with desire objects, with external objects. So there's 3 realms in cyclic existence. Ours is the desire realm. So the thing in the desire realm is there's all these external objects that are so desirable. And by being desirable, some being desirable, then there's also others that are harmful. But we're totally entranced with all these external things. From the time we open our eyes in the morning, just always sense object. There's me and a sense object. There's me and another person. Yeah. And how do I navigate my way through all of this so that I can make this self happy, preserve this self's identity and dignity, prevent this self from experiencing any harm, because there's a real self. And to prove it, I have a body. Yeah? We talk, look at science. What does science investigate? Yeah? You talk about the brain, the body, science explodes with things. The mind? Let's change the subject. Okay? They're really stumped about the mind, something that isn't material. Because we are so I got to understand all of this. And NASA just found, I don't know, some big chunk of ice, some billions of miles away from the Earth, the furthest visible thing that's beyond Pluto, and they send something out to it, and we're going to get data that's going to help us understand this big ice cube. That I'm not sure if it's rotating the sun or what it is, but it's like, wow, because they just sent something out and it made contact. They're going to have data by Tuesday. Yeah. And this is going to help us as human beings. Because everything external is so entranced, isn't it? I mean, look how you relate to your phone. Yeah, it's part of your body almost. And you come here and Venerable Samten says, give me your phone. And you go, yeah, like this. You're asking me to cut off my hand. Then they don't get the clickers for counting the mantra either. No phone, no clicker. No clicker, no phone. Okay. Yeah, but see, who didn't turn in their phones? You can be truthful. Okay. Only 2 people? 3 people, 4 people, 5. Oh, okay. Only 5 people?
I'm joining my SIM
Your HIM card? What's a HIM card?
SIM card.
Huh? Oh, SIM card. Oh, okay. So, yeah, what we're getting at is how entranced we are by external things. And it starts with the body. We look at the body. I am this body. Don't you feel that? I am this body. I'm here because the body's sitting here. But it's interesting because sometimes we think I am the body, the body's here, I'm here. Sometimes we say, I have a body, as if the body is our possession, not who we are. Okay? So sometimes, like, we say, I am old, or I am young. I am that, yeah? Sometimes we might say, I have an old body. But that sounds strange to say, doesn't it? I have an old body. Because if you have an old body, it means you are old. Yeah? So we go back and forth between identifying I am the body and the body is my possession. So we hold both of them as if they're inherently real. But even that thing of holding one I am and one I have indicates that we don't completely believe. I mean, if we say, I have a body, then we're already at some level saying, I'm not my body. The body is something else. So we're really actually pretty confused about how to relate to our body. Is our body me? Or is our body a possession that I have? Okay. Either way, whether it's me or whether it's my best possession ever, yeah, this thing made of blood and guts that is going to soon be a corpse is my most prized possession. Right? I don't want to separate from it. Yeah? Yeah. But what is it? What is it made of? Yeah. Oh, but my body is so beautiful. Yeah, it's so beautiful. We vomit, we pee, we poo, we sweat. Yeah, look at what comes out of every orifice in our body. And yet our body is so beautiful and so pure. And other people's bodies, same way. Look at that liver. Yeah. So, are you getting some idea of how, what ignorance is? And how our ordinary view of things somehow doesn't actually hit the spot of what things are. Okay? So, yeah, we have to question, who is this I that did all these negative actions? Because we have this notion that there's a concrete me who did those negative actions, who's sinful through and through, or evil, or contaminated through and through. Okay? But think of a negative action you did some time ago. Anybody have an example?
I'm not going to tell.
That's our problem. You see, our negativities are me. Yeah, I've got to hide my negativities because if other people know about them, then they won't think I'm wonderful. Then they'll know the reality about me. Yeah. So let's hide it all. even though we all know that we've all committed negativities. Yeah, don't we? Yeah. I mean, I know, except those of you in this audience who are arhats and bodhisattvas, well, even those who are, you were once sentient beings. So everybody in this room has committed all 10 non-virtuous actions at one time or another since beginningless time. Okay? That's given. So we already know that about each other. What are we hiding? Okay. You know I've committed all 10. I know you've committed all 10. Yeah. You know I've broken precepts. I know you've broken precepts. But okay. It's amazing, isn't it? It's totally amazing. So funny how we are. Okay? So just to begin to question all of this, and not only am I not my body, and not my mind, but Vajrasattva also isn't some kind of concrete thing. Yeah, like we talked about yesterday. There's not Vajrasattva sitting up there next to God, the Old Testament God, or the New Testament too. They both are pretty judgmental. Yeah? I don't think God changed that much between the New and the Old Testament, because he's permanent anyway. Yeah. But, there's Vajrasattva, inherently pure from the beginning. Vajrasattva was never a sentient being like me. Yeah, he was born pure. No, all the Buddhas became Buddhas because they were once sentient beings, and they practiced the path. They purified their mind. They developed all the good qualities. They became a Buddha. They weren't born that way. Okay. So similarly, if we practice the path, purify our mind, accumulate merit, follow the same thing they did, we're going to become Buddhas. Okay. So maybe you're a Buddha, one face, two arms, holding cell phone and, and tablet. Yeah. Okay. So, this thing, there's Vajrasattva up there, self-enclosed, pure from his own side. He's never been a sentient being. Yeah. And always just sitting there as Vajrasattva. Poor guy never moves. Either his hands are always like this, with the Vajra bell, or, his hands are always like this, forever and ever. It never moves, never does anything. And we go, I want to become like that. Okay, how boring, like she said, I'm going to sit there all day. When are these sentient beings going to get it together? Okay. Vajrasattva is not some frozen, inherently existent person, concrete, sitting up there, looking and saying, oh, evil, looking at us and just with so much judgment. Yeah, that's not what's going on. Okay? So Vajrasattva exists by being merely designated on that appearance of body and mind. We exist by being merely designated on the appearance of body and mind. Yeah. So we can all generate that kind of wisdom. And when we have that wisdom, then we see that although on the conventional, superficial level, things appear, there's all different kinds of things that arise because of they have different causes and conditions. But on the level of what our fundamental nature is, our ultimate nature, at the end, you can't find any inherently existent person, any inherently existent thing that is afflictive, any inherently existent thing that is purified, that everything exists in a context, in relationship to each other. So even that emptiness exists in relationship to the conventional objects. It's not that emptiness, the ultimate nature, is some kind of concrete reality that's 15 universes to the up and 5 universes to the right. Okay, and we've got to go there. Yeah. The emptiness is the nature of every single thing, you, me, single thing around us. It's right here. We just don't see it. Okay, so, when we're doing the Vajrasattva purification, this loosening how we conceive of everything is very important. Yeah? So even, when we think about our negativities, oh, I did this horrible negative action. I lied to somebody, let's say. Okay. Then so we look at lying, concrete. This is how it appears to our mind. Concrete, that is a lie. All four powers, all four factors that are necessary to make it a complete object of lying are present. There was an object, there was an intention, there was the action, there was the completion of the action. There's the karma of lying. And I done it. Okay? There's a real me, there's a real action of lying. Okay? But then we start to investigate. If we take that action of lying, what was it really? Okay? What was because if something is concrete like that, we should be able to identify exactly what it is. So exactly what is that lie that we are so contaminated by having done? Okay? Is the lie the motivation? Is the lie the movement of your mouth? Is the lie the sound waves? Is the lie when you first opened your mouth and started speaking? Or is the lie the sound waves that came out in the middle? Or is the lie the last bit of sound waves? Or maybe the lie is the first moment of the motivation when it was still weak, or maybe it was the last moment of the motivation when it was strong. When you start analyzing, the lie, what exactly was it? Okay, when you do this, can you find some concrete, inherently existent lie that you did? Yeah. Hold on. You can't find anything, can you? if there were a real lie, the way it appears to us, we should be able to identify it. It's right there, and you can see it stinks through and through. But when we analyze to look for what the lie is, it's like sand going through your hand, isn't it? It's like, well, there's a lie there, but I can't find it. But then you have to realize, actually, there is no inherently existent lie. Okay? There's a lie on the level of appearance. When I put all those different moments of different activities of body, speech, and mind together, when I put them together, but I can't even find which moment starts the lie and which moment ends the lie when you analyze. Yeah. Which moment starts the lie? Oh, the first moment of my intention. Can you find the first moment of your intention? Was there a first moment of intention before which there was nothing? Did that first moment come out of nowhere? Or maybe it was the first moment of moving my mouth. When was the first moment of moving my mouth? Is it? When is the first, if it's moving my mouth. But what about my vocal cords? If just moving my mouth isn't lying, it has to make my vocal cords. But my vocal cords aren't going to move unless I have the intention. But I'm not going to have the intention unless there's all this other framework laid out beforehand, like a need to defend myself and blah, blah. Okay. So when we actually look, the point is, without investigating, it looks like there's a real solid lie, negative action. But when we investigate, we can't find exactly what it is. When we don't investigate, there's the appearance that depends on many factors. And that appearance functions. But it's not something that exists from its own side, independent of everything else. And it's not inherently bad. Okay? So it can be purified. Yeah. Something that is inherently existent can never be purified. Something that is a dependent arising, you change one factor or another factor, everything has to change. Okay? So we want to, while we're doing the Vajrasattva practice, remember, that there's no me that exists as an independent agent from my own side. And there's no action that exists as an independent action from its own side. And there's no object that I'm acting upon that exists out there independent from its own side. That they're all interrelated. Okay? When we don't analyze, there's the appearance. When we analyze, it evaporates. Okay? So the appearance level, when we don't analyze, is what we call conventional or veiled existence. The disappearance of that inherently existent thing, when we do analyze, that emptiness is the ultimate nature. Okay? We have to be able to see both of them. But, right now we're at the extreme of solidifying the appearance aspect. So it's good to, really work at deconstructing some of that and seeing how things are dependent and they lack any kind of nature of their own, any kind of identity of their own. Yeah. And then go from there to, but they appear. Okay? So this way of meditating on emptiness, and complementing it with the dependent arising, this is the ultimate factor that purifies the negative karma. So when we're talking about the remedial action, so we've talked about it in terms of reciting the Buddha's name, reciting the mantra, meditating on different things, offering service, helping charities, helping the poor and needy, and so on. But the ultimate thing that really purifies the mind is to be able to see that ultimate nature and to see that it is not contradictory with the appearance level. And that's not easy. But the more we can familiarize ourselves even a little bit with this, the more it really helps us to relax and to not take things so seriously.
So I'm thinking about the non-existence of the lie, but within our purification practice, we do actually give a specified action or frame of mind a particular name in order to enact the purification.
Mm-hmm.
So we're giving it an existence by naming it, but it doesn't have inherent existence.
Right.
I have
It
that
exists by mere name.
by mere name.
Yeah.
But not inherently.
But not inherent.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. So we have 13 minutes. Let's sit just in silent meditation and think about what you heard. Okay? And kind of explore a little bit, who do I think I am? And what exactly is this negativity? Or, how do I conceive of all these things? And are my conceptions, do they have anything to do with how things actually exist when I investigate how things exist? Just some closing advice. You've been in a very good habit the last few days, practicing morning and evening, holding good ethical conduct. Take the habit that you've been developing here home with you. Don't think, oh, I'm going home, so I can't practice, and I've got to moderate my ethical conduct in some way, and so on and so forth. But you're in going in a good direction. Keep going in that direction when you go home. Those of you who are leaving, and also be aware that although it may seem that your mind is still quite noisy, it's actually a lot quieter than it was when you came. So when you leave, don't just get in the car and turn on the radio and go home, check your, your cell phone in one hand and your tablet in the other and the radio going and driving the car and, multitasking and everything and thinking of everything that you have to do that you weren't able to do because you took these days out, getting yourself built up in anxiety again. just, you know, everything will just happen. It's okay. Go slowly. Do your practice. Be kind. Okay. Yeah, so really watch how you're relating to the media and the sense objects that you encounter. So don't just head for Starbucks and the steakhouse. Okay, and please come back and share the Dharma with us again. You're part of the Sravasti Abbey extended community. We have the retreat from afar going on for the next few months, where people at home do one session of the Vajrasattva practice, even though, you know, we're doing multi-sessions here. And then you can send us a picture of the real you in a very beautiful pose, and we'll put it up on the wall in the dining room. Okay. Yeah, it's not it's not one of these Buddhist dating apps up on the wall. Okay. So don't go looking for, you know, who am I going to contact who's also doing Vajrasattva. Yeah. Okay. And so basically, just enjoy enjoy the Dharma, and enjoy your lives, and hold your values, and, you know, closely to your heart, and live according with them, and then relax.